Hi, I'm George Lynch of Legendary Gear, game call company. It's Legend by Design. Welcome back for part 2 here, as we're going to talk about our exciting morning's hunt up in Saskatchewan. Well, day 3 was the most challenging morning yet. We're sitting here in the biggest field that we've found with the most geese that have been coming to a field. It was one of my favorite fields to hunt. It was a pea field, and Blair Mitchell, a good friend of Bilitane's and up there had gotten a hold of us, and he's part of this slob mob group. And anyway, he had this field. He was up there guiding bear hunters, and so we were in this field that he had picked up, and we got in there, and again we had probably 8 guys. He had 8 guys in a 5 blind limit, but with the dog, I think we hunted with 1 dog that morning. But the guys thought that there was some low power lines that was there. Again, but these geese automatically. We had the first group that morning when it was still, the sun hadn't made its presence that much, and I first thought they were snow geese. This is how you squeak. And then when I looked up, they were honkers, and I don't know if they're a true cackler, if it's just a form of a Richardson goose, but the first group, they were so tiny, and I think we ripped 8 out of the 11 that came in there pretty good. And I know that my wife and I shot one, and basically I kept those back. They were in beautiful condition. Now I probably didn't shoot those, because if I did, mine were probably the ones that had heads missing. But I figured these either died of heart attack, or might have been a stray bullet, so it could have been Don, Greg, or B. So it's one of those, but they're pretty good. You always hunt with buddies that the one pellet kind of guy, that he gets 1 pellet in the bird and nobody wants to mount it. Usually he produces the best mounters. So now just busting their tails. But no, we did get a couple. We stayed back out of that group. Diane and I are going to get mounted up, and just a goose that you don't see here in Iowa, but that group, it came in pretty good. But after that, we didn't have a strong wind, and in fact the wind just kept getting less and less, and the birds just got tougher and tougher. Then they came in where you got those big groups of birds, and with no wind, they just started, they were still trying to set up kind of in a loose J setup, but more with a straight line, with this soft curve. The geese were, by doing this, we were putting this kind of like this, hunting with the blind here. We were hunting a crosswind that was coming in. So these birds were coming in and hooking in good until that sun started coming up. And the higher the sun came, again, you got that. Now the blind it was constantly going like this, making it tough. When again, like I said, when you got a ton of geese in the field, you got to pick, are we not going to shoot any of them, or are we going to pick a group and we call it? And again, you remind everybody that we got to get these on camera, and which is a total different game. And it's tough on the guy in the end when he's got 2 honkers sitting on the ground 10 feet in front of him, and we're working a group and he's just salivating and stuff. It could be tough. But again, we're trying to get everything up in the camera. But when you got that many birds and there's no wind, so you got birds that lit just on the ground walking to your right, but nobody can shoot over here. And we had birds that come straight over the blind. But when you got that many people, and you don't want people turning and crisscrossing, it's just everything has to be 2 o'clock and 10 o'clock out here. So it's actually, that's a huge challenge that people don't realize. So either you choose that you shut up like no one's home and let them go and decide, and start flagging and getting some pulling back. To me, it's a twofold deal, because if they are pulling off of you, and when the major group starts coming, and you got a few down here, but then you look about 80 yards down, there's 50, 70, 80, 100 birds, and now you're starting to see birds pull over there. At that situation right there, if I get a flock, it's coming in and folding in good before I let that pile up over there. You see that's going to pull, we'll at least try to get 1 and maybe 2 action shots if you get the ones that are coming up in the gut and they're hitting it good, stay on those, work on those. And to me, again, I'm going to stay on those birds all the way. That little good soft stuff, just getting those birds to finish walking in. I'm not running 90 miles an hour because I'm not trying to pull other geese, because you don't want to keep, these ones are in there. Oh, here these come. Make that mind up. We're going to smoke these. We'll shoot them. We get them in, and then through the blasting, if I can get another, and which makes great footage. Now, if I can scream, which we did a couple times, got back on the call and started screaming, hitting that fast stuff. And that fast stuff, when I'm and birds are trying to come back, I'm hitting a spit moan and a fast. And that's the stuff I'm trying to hit with the fast stuff, to get those geese to turn. And on that fast stuff, again, you want to stay on that all the way. If you're the last guy picking the gun up, that you're the last guy, because it's about getting them birds right to me. It's always that, the high is seeing the birds coming in, and that second high is that challenge of picking that exact moment that you're going to call it. That it's that timing, and we always want to be able to pride ourselves that, wow, you called those perfect. You don't want to be the guy, you called it too soon, or dude, we should have called it just a little bit quicker. You always like that was perfect. So that's, to me, is the second high, picking that, especially when they're working and you got different groups working, but finally the one you're wanting to come in. And it's funny because you could have guys, man, dude, I got 3 on the ground to my right. And it's like, nope, the only thing that matters to me is those 4 or 6 that I've been working on. They're, give me another 5 seconds. It's going to be done. And I think that's another podcast on its own. We'll call it "Give Me Another 5 Seconds," because that's sometimes the difference of someone jumping up and shooting too soon, and almost there but not quite, and turns the situation to a rougher situation, and which is just as bad, the 5 seconds too late, because usually they're gone, and then only you're trying to get everybody shooting, and you're thinking they're gonna, once the shooting starts, they're gonna pop back with the wind, and all of a sudden these go the opposite way, and nobody on the right is shooting. So it's all part of the game, but it's actually some of the stuff that just, like I said, watching the birds work. And then the second high is being able to pick that precise moment. And that comes with practice. And there's still some times that, not too often, but, to me, it's not calling one too soon. It might be because I'm so focused on another group, which happened, several times. I was focusing on other birds, and the guys that have, 5 or 6 that lit to my right, those birds were oblivious to me, unless they're, I'll be looking the sky in case there's another good sized flock that might be bigger here that's cupping and doing it. That's what you're going to watch, and you can watch all that. But the ones that are 3 or 4 that hit the ground, you're oblivious to that. And if it didn't work, and they do kind of pull up on you, which was, if we had anything, because you'd see the geese wanting to come. And again, I talked about a degree angle. When they're first coming, you see them, you flag them, they start coming. If they're up there about 80, 100 yards, well, as they're getting closer, the 80, 100 yards should be turning into 70, should be turning into 50, and that's called the drop a degree of angle. And if that isn't happening, I'm watching that. So you got two things you can do. I can start calling and running a call and see if I can get them to set up, which I'm thinking that if you just wait, to me, I have higher success of turning birds that are not dropping that degree of angle basically means that they were flying over high. They're cautious, not quite sure that whether this is where they want to come. There's not been enough enticement. And, so when they're interested, when they'll drop and they'll swing because their eyes are at the side of their head. When they're swinging sideways and doing that circle, that's when they're really looking over the spread. And then you got a great chance of getting birds the rest of the way if you keep everybody concealed. The decoys look good, and then you just on that call, hit that precise note and the precise moment, and work those in till you shoot them. And usually I'm staying again. Everything I stay on the call. The reason I'm saying this, guys, this works early in the season. But let me tell you, geese who start from all the way to Saskatchewan, who make it to North Dakota, South Dakota, to Iowa, then you're talking Missouri and Louisiana and Arkansas and Mississippi. They've seen a few times. They've been, lucky if they've been able to live. But I'm sure that they've come into a decoy spread probably once or twice at least on each bird on their flight down. Through the migration, unless they're set with a bunch of birds that are strictly refuge birds that fly from refuge to refuge, but they're going to pass through in that high migration. And if we got birds here to hold them, that's great. So the no wind deal is what we faced, and the calling was, people said, what, and I've ran basically the two different calling styles that I was running. And like I said, I had a high success rate bringing birds in, birds that were high. We had high birds. We had birds that were low. We had birds that got shot in, called back in. We had birds when everybody was out of the blind. And we filmed. I wanted to get it filmed, but I had a group kind of circle. Then I pulled the loner. One of them, he was a loner. He wasn't with them, but I pulled one off, and he slid right into the pile of decoys coming up, and he dropped in. But it was interesting. But let me show you. This is our blind. We were sitting out there. This is again, we were trying to run like an arc, and then that wind kept switching on us in different places. But those geese definitely were hovering over the blind. We just didn't have any wind. And so when I get something like this, what I like to do is it's an X, call it the X factor or the X blind. See how the X will go through the blind. But actually I'm setting decoys at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock from my blind. And what I do, I like to get out here, and you can have 15, 20, you can have 2 dozen, whatever you want. If you want to put 2 dozen on each end, I might go where the spot. Say if we, like I said, we're going to sit here, and I'm going to try to get most of my shooting out here with me and my clients. If we're sitting in here, you can face any direction here, but I'm going to try to fill this up the most. Leave a little bit behind the blind, fill this up the most. This I'll probably put the least amount. I'll open this up a little bit. I'll keep this right here. This is what'll happen with no wind. You can get a lot of times these birds they'll come over and crisscross over something and land. Not everybody might have the shots, but you're going to get some good shooting. You just have to move the camera. But I call it the X factor. X goes through the blind, decoys 12, 3, 6, and 9. And what I like to do is, I like to put my decoys out here. I'll have the furthest one at 30 yards and just kind of spread. You can put them in family groups here and kind of scatter them. But I really want to, this is what you got, 3 different spots here. You're trying to get the birds, so you see each one gives kind of more of an opportunity with that. With there's no wind. If you set up a J or something, they got no wind, they could pull off that one line and just keep going and circle out there at 50 yards behind you. And what I'm just trying to do is open up a lot more different sources. Great setup, guys, when there's no wind. The only other thing that on a no wind, or if you happen to be hunting the fence row, standing corn, you can see that my wife's artwork is amazing. But if we're hunting with a crosswind, I'll run that loose J just like this, maybe taper and move this. It depends on the geese. If the wind's going this way, let's say the birds are wanting to come in this way, and I'm going to lower See how that wind's going? I'm going to lower that out if the birds are pulling out. Now we can hide two things. If the birds are coming in here and well, they're tailing up and staying up, you can keep the blind in the corn, and you're just, with this setup right here, you're just pinching birds in here. Got a good chance. If they were staying away from the blind and working, like I said, you can always move this in and out and set the blinds up according, up here. If the birds were kind of tailing out, I could actually would open this set here and lay my blinds and hunters. So, but again, this is advantage if you're hunting with 4 or 5 guys. When you're hunting 10 or 15 guys, you better just line them up. It's the Michigan militia in the cornfield, and I've done that. I've had 12, 15 guys. It's a tough thing, when you're hunting standing corn. It's amazing. You can get away with a lot. It's hard to control the safety aspect. That's what I'll say. Anybody tells you that it's 100% safe, anytime you talk men and guns and birds coming in and action happen, anything can happen. Now, looking at this fence row, my spread here, this is basically if I'm hunting fence rows or I'm hunting, say if you had a cornfield that is half picked, and you still got standing corn, or sometimes if you got standing corn over wheat stubble, this is the same either way. I call it fence row and stuff like that. But if I'm sitting in a fence row, I'll basically, and now if it's a fence row with both field on both sides, say I had a crosswind that was coming through here, or the crosswind's going this way, you can see how I'd set up the spread. The spread's going to be a loose J. It's going to go upwind. We're going to start the hook from upwind. It's going to angle out. My whole time, my furthest decoys that I'm setting on this, I'm going to try to have 30, and maybe at the end of the tail, as you're dragging down the spread, the arm comes out. My inside's going to be 30 yards, and then you can set the outside, a little further if you want. If you want to get some at 40, but maybe you work in small groups right here. The reason I'm doing that is, on these points right here, if I know that distance 30 yards, anything inside that to me, as long as they're open and they're not super high, if they come in off that deck, anything inside this right here is go time. And so kind of it helps you keep it. I even know the distance from here to here. If you want to put a decoy down in here somewhere to measure at the upwind of the blind of the J-frame, you can put a decoy out there, but it's, use your rangefinder. But that way, kind of keeping an idea on my distance of the geese. And same way if I had a backwind and we went with that V out here, I know what that furthest decoy right here is going to be on each side. Good point. And that way when birds are coming in, it's going to help give you a guideline. If you want to, and there's nothing wrong if you take that 40 and 50 yard shot. And usually because that's going to happen if you have birds coming in, you shoot 2 geese and you go to the third one, and he might be out there 40, 50 yards, or a bird that got hit, you're definitely going to, that third shot, you're going to take it. I mean, I am at 50 yards. I'm going to still shoot, but that wasn't my beginning. It wasn't my judgment to start the shooting, if you understand. So, I won't shoot 50 yards just to get a shot, but I'll shoot 50 yards to end my sequence, and that makes sense. So pretty much we'll go over a little bit the guys and hunting with dogs up there. Here's dogs to me, it's a personal thing. Phil Robertson once said, you can talk about a man's woman, you can talk about his call, you can talk about his dog, and you got to fight. And there's probably a lot of truth to that, but everybody loves their dog, and everybody wants to be out there and share it with Fido, and which is a great thing. And I've had some great dogs in my time. I've been blessed to have some great ones. And but anyway, there's if you want to do that, and here's my philosophy on that. I mean, a well-trained dog is a must. To me, if you're hunting water and as a helper, and that to me the dog is just my well-trained dog went everywhere with me, but definitely when you're hunting water, that's where he shined in his best implementation of his being as a tool, being able to swim out there and bring things back. Now hunting in the field with my dog, between my dog and I could send him and he was 100% on command. So when I'm out there, I can be when it gets rush in the rush of things, and you don't know how much time you got in between spreads. You know, two guys working. A guy gets his dog. He's going after the local geese. He's sending his dog on the far geese, and as the dog's coming back, he's able to pick up birds that within that 30 yards that died. So he's helping the dog pick up. But and if there's more birds out there, no matter where he's at, he can resend your dog. You line him up, and that right there is a great tool. And the number one thing before he even gets there, he's got his Fido needs to stay there, and he has to be in his blind until I send him. And no breaking and no running and the decoys and stuff. And it's all about a control. And to get that way, you got to spend hours with your dog before season. You never train a child in a baseball game. The game is everything he learned in practice, and then the game is to execute what he knows, what he already knows. It's hard to learn and putting the pressure on. Dogs are the same way. So, my dogs, everything they did was repetitive. They did it. So when we were in the field, it was just another day for the dog. And once it becomes repetitive, but every day you got to be consistent, telling your family in the same commands. They got to say the same words you do, and they got to react the same way. But that's how you got to have a great dog. If you don't have a good dog and hunt in the field, then you got, if you have plenty of guys, then you make use of your guys getting birds. And then you have markers if you want to keep reminding each other, hey, we got one over there at 12 o'clock. He's about 400 yards out there, a glider. You're going to have that and always have that marker. And then if you have to take time and want to count, guy can make a truck run. He can go over there and make a quick sweep. That a lot of times is quicker than when it's hot and heavy and you get a group of birds. If I got birds still in the air, I'm going to, let everything play out. Some people believe, that goose rolled over. There's one with belly up. When they're coming hard, I don't think it even matters. They're going to come in either way. But when you're out there and you're chasing a dog or the dog hasn't come back, that's, there's a lot of flocks that get, you got a group coming. Well, he's still out in the blind. And you can tell that as you're calling because, someone will tell me birds and I'll start calling and I can tell right away they're not responding. What's going on? Well, this guy's out of the blind. He's got his dog. He was getting something back here. So, you can see what I'm saying, setting up in the field and stuff. To me, it's well-trained dog. And also it'd have to be with people I truly trust because people that when I guide in my old younger days, they always, hey man, I heard you had an amazing dog. How come he's not hunting with us this morning? I said, because my dog is like my number 2 son. Anybody shot him, I wouldn't be leaving the blind. So my dog doesn't hunt with, he's like my son. He doesn't hunt with people I don't know. And until I get to know you guys, then that dog's pretty special to me. And that dog will do everything I tell him. I'm not going to have somebody shoot him. But anyway, that's my kind of a dog. You make sure that, and the point I was going to say earlier, when you're going to hunt and you're taking a young dog like that, before he gets to that stage, you got to make sure the dog can handle guns. And the worst thing is if you never introduce a dog to guns and you take his first time, it's going to be with 5-7 guys right behind him and they're all lighting up. And he's like, holy crap. That's going to overwhelm the dog. It's going to freak him out. I have a method that, I like to do. I was talking to Mike Friesen on his show the other night that, his dog will go and not pick up a bird. And, all dogs are birdie. He'll pick it up. He just needs to pick it up when he's told to pick it up. And there's a little things that's where, I'm not big on field trial, which there's nothing wrong with that. But, to me, a dog, an animal, must have every command before he hits the field. So he doesn't have to hunt to get that part. But every command he's got to know. He's got to know sit, stay, and then he's got to know, back and to fetch. He's got to know that and to bring it back. If he's struggling, he has to bring it back. Like I said, if you're hunting and you're hunting with with other people, or if you had clients, you're going to make sure that I'm going to heal the dog up as quick as I can. I'm not going to stay out there and try to make him force, picking up. Again, That's got to come in practice when there's no other people there. He's got to take his time. But when it's go time, just go ahead and pick up the bird, bring the dog back, getting birdie as he's coming back. Praise him, always praise him in the field. Don't correct him and come unglued like Sergeant Carter when the dog's his first time out in the field. You know, he's just trying to learn everything. Everything's new. You accept that and you just kind of praise it, keep it a positive thing. But what I like to do is, you know, I'll get a bird. We take pigeons. We used to take doves. You cut part of the wing off, and they can't fly away. But you take that, and you know the dogs are birdie anyway, and you keep rubbing that bird in his face, and then we'll take the dog, and I'll take a handler, and the dog will probably go 50 yards from me, and then I'll have a person off to my side, and we'll be yelling bird, 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 and I'll throw the bird up, and I'll shoot the gun in the air. But I'll watch, but I won't shoot the gun. Here's a critical thing, and I'll tell you when if you're heeling the dog how to tell. And I learned this a long time ago. I watched it through Buck, and it's absolutely true. So if I'm watching out there and you're sending your dog and how they'll pant with their mouth open. That's if he's just sitting there, he's looking around. If I'm wanting him to know that when I'm telling him to mark. When I know that he's picked up that mark, is you'll watch him panting. As soon as he picks up that mark, he'll close his mouth and raise his head. At that moment, that's when I know that the dog has got the mark. And I'll keep yelling mark until we get him to that point. And that is his confirmation to me, hey, Dad, I got it. And then you send him back on his name, and there he goes. And that takes, again, discipline. And you do that, you got to have that person sitting in the blind. And if you're taking your dog, once you got him established the guns, now he equates guns to retrieving a bird, and he's all birdie, he's all excited about that. So your first time going to hunt, try to keep it to 2 or 3 guys. You still don't want a barrage. Let the dog work his way up, even if it's just one other guy that you're hunting with. This is all about dog training. This isn't about big piles for social media. Shooting 2 or 3 geese, whether if I was with 20 guys or by myself, I'm shooting 3 geese. It's going to be the same exact experience than sitting there and guessing which 3 you shot. But anyway, when you're hunting, always. You have control of the dog. Don't start staking your dog in. A lot of guys believe that the biggest answer, quick, which it probably is in the fields, they'll hurry up and stake that dog down, and that dog will start learning that I got to be staked down all the time out in the field, and you don't want him to know that. You don't want to take the time that he's got to be staked down. He needs to learn right away. So the reason I'm saying this, so when the birds come in, this is the most important time of your training, and you've done everything good except to the moment where it says cut him. And then you all of a sudden now abandon your dog, grab your shotgun, come up and shoot a bird that you shot many times before. But what you need to be doing is make sure that you're holding your dog, your gun is safe, and you're just telling him, stay, 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 and you're reiterating with him and let the guy shoot. And if he starts to get up to him, he'll sit, sit, sit. And you want to do that correction right there before he even gets out of that blind. And when you're teaching him that he doesn't leave that blind until he's told, that is huge. And whether he has the best nose, I would take a dog that was more control under command than any dog that had the whole world of skill of being the greatest hunter, but the biggest idiot listened to a command. You definitely want a thinker on that. So anyway, those tactics, that's what just my views of talking about hunting with dogs. I love dogs. The dogs are huge. Don't suddenly say, don't you love dogs? I love dogs. Like I said, learning to hunt with a dog is the greatest experience. When every guy knows that when he owns his own dog, watching your dog do his retrieve, hunting pheasants, whatever, doing that, whether you're a pheasant hunter, it's like watching your little kid play, hit his first hit off T-ball. You're just getting excited. But that was the 3rd day. That's everything up in Saskatchewan. Again, I want to reach out to B. Latane and Blair Mitchell and Layden Fiddick, Don Walk, Greg Toogood, his son Jacob, all these guys who worked hard. Rhea Musi, who made me my carrot cake, homemade carrot cake, and a cran apple pie, I think it was. and she made the best pierogies. That's big Ukrainian food up there, and the beatniks. That is beatniks, I think they called it. Unbelievable Ukrainian food, so good if they can cook it. And Rhea can really cook. And then her husband Kirby, we got to meet him. They got a beautiful little cabin that B took Diana and I did one day back to looking at the bear bait and setting out. I think even and it's called the Crooked Tree.
The Twisted.
Oh, Twisted Tree. Same thing. That's blue and pink. I'm crooked. She says twisted. No, the Twisted Tree. And what was the story on that, Di? Why did they call it?
Did you see the Twisted Tree behind it?
Well, you say that with your tongue. Twisted Tree behind. That's a tough one to say.
Twisted Tree.
Yeah, I do.
Behind that's where they got the name.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Very special place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be that twisted tree coming out of the back why they called it that, but it's beautiful. B showed us they have they go up there in the winter time, so it's way back in, and great moose and bear spot, and they go in there and snowmobile. Snowmobile is a big thing, and you know they have a good time up there. They came over, very good people. We had last night there, a lot of the farmers and people relatives to the farmers. They came over our last night and we celebrated, had a great time, and I think we
3 a.m.
We danced to 80s music till 3 a.m. in the morning. You know, when you got a bunch of old geeks from out there dancing to 80s music. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoy this. Like I said, reach out to me, send me an email, anything you want to know. Anybody want to work on calling? You know, my style's working. Hopefully, we're going to be getting some more of this footage coming from Greg here pretty soon. We'll try to find out the date when this TV show is going to be playing on Wild TV in Canada, and hopefully it. Like I said, you catch this on, and the next level is, reading birds, something that you can't learn from a keyboard. You got to be in the field. But anyway, all you guys out there hunting this week, though, always remember, hunt safe, hunt smart. May the good Lord be your guide. Peace out.
Well, I'll be out there, rain or shining, all a part of the great design. Bring it on, I can never get enough, because that's what legends are made of.